Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett. I'm the editor of the Salisbury Independent newspaper. I'm sitting in for Phil Tillman. Phil Tillman has retired from the show, and he's turned the show over to me for a while. We're hoping to get Phil back. We're going to try to talk Phil back, but I'm here this week with Mary Beth Carozza.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. This is a historic opportunity to be on the show with you as the new host, and I appreciate the opportunity to fill you in on what's going on in this exciting time.
Well, when I think about all the people around, you are in a very exciting position. You've just been elected to the House of Delegates. You're about to start right now as a delegate in the legislature. It's a historic time in Maryland politics. So what are you up to? What are you doing with this?
It really has been a whirlwind time, and I'm so appreciative and I'm humbled by this opportunity. I have a real sense that I am part of history. With this election, I'm one of 50 Republicans in the House of Delegates, which is the highest number ever. And we're coming into office with a governor-elect, Larry Hogan. And also, I'm representing a brand new district. I'm the first delegate from a brand new district. So, you know, I feel the sense of history. I feel the sense of responsibility. So many people across the board were so supportive. So I have vowed that I will continue to work as hard as I've been working in the campaign to be accessible to the folks, and thought this was a good opportunity to give an update of what's going on during the transition.
Now, your district does have a big portion of Wycomico County, but also primarily your district is in Worcester County, and that's where you're from. But you're going to be key to a lot of things that happen in Annapolis because you have experience in Annapolis. Talk about that.
Well, I also think once you're elected from the shore, you represent the shore. And this district is a really wonderful combination of our farming folks, our tourism, and another area where I'd like to see us get more involved in the area of high tech. As you mentioned, it includes the eastern part of Wycomico County and the northern part of Worcester County. So, you know, I've been spending most of my time, all of my time since the election, other than when I've run up to Annapolis for various meetings, still going around attending community events in both Wycomico and Worcester counties.
Now, it was quite a sweep for Republicans in this last election. You have some brethren from the lower shore, mid-shore, all Republican except for one person.
That's correct. I think there was a sense of a need for change. Larry Hogan ran on the platform of Change Maryland. And if you look at how he went about his election and how some of us went about our individual races, you know, it was focused on grassroots support. And it meant getting out there every day. And Larry Hogan, with his Change Maryland, you know, had these followers for the past 3 years. So it's not like he all of a sudden decided he wanted to be governor and got in for the last few months. He worked at this, building this Change Maryland group, and made it very inclusive. I also decided to run very early in May of 2013. And once I made that decision, it was a full commitment. I knocked on nearly 6,000 doors. And I think that put me in a position where I would have a position of strength, where I would have support across the board from all constituencies and strong support in both counties. I thought that was important to go out and earn that support. So when elected, I would be in the strongest position I could be in Annapolis to represent the shore.
Now, of course, you're not succeeding our longtime delegate, Norm Conway. That's not your district. But you have more experience probably than your colleagues who have just been elected in terms of what goes on in Annapolis. You've been involved in what goes on there. You know Michael Bush, the Speaker. You know Mike Miller, the Senate President. You know Larry Hogan. So you're deeply connected to what goes on. Are you going to try to take a kind of a leadership role, or are you going to be the cheerleader? What kind of role do you see for yourself?
Well, it's interesting to see how that will develop. I would like to take my previous experiences in public service and put them to use for our home district for the shore. And I think I will be able to do that. I obviously worked with some of these folks before when I worked in Governor Ehrlich's administration, and also at the federal level when we've worked some issues pertaining to the state of Maryland. I'd like to take those experiences at the federal level and put them to good use again to see how we can promote the shore and promote Maryland. it was interesting that after going up to Annapolis for our freshman orientation, I was able to reconnect with some of the people that I worked with before. So it was good to obviously spend some time with Speaker Bush. I also had some time with President Miller as well, which obviously is key to get anything done. We need both houses working together. I also spent a lot of time with Speaker Bush's staff, and they were just so accommodating. They would answer all our questions. I was trying to get a sense of where some of the issues that we had worked on in the past that are still priorities now, where we were with those, and try to get a leg up, and so I would be in the best position when I am sworn in on January 14th.
Okay, you mentioned issues. What are the most important issues to you and to the Lower Shore?
Well, throughout my campaign, and it did to a certain extent mirror what Larry Hogan talked about, and I talked about this probably on a more local level, but I've been very clear that our two economic drivers for the shore, for District 38C, would be tourism and farming. And I am completely committed to supporting policies that will keep those two economic sectors strong. The area that I've consistently have said that we need to do more, do a better job, is the whole area of high tech and entrepreneurship. And we have such assets here. We have NASA Wallops in our backyard. We have the major employers like Purdue. We have our academic institutions, Warwick, Salisbury University, UMES. I think that we need to strengthen the partnership with all of these leaders to see what we can do to better promote and encourage folks to, number one, our young people to stay on the shore. So once we do a great job educating them, we don't lose them to either over the bridge or to other states. And two, how we can put policies in place that would encourage some of these young people or people who want to change in career to do something, to take the risk, to go and start a business. So that excites me. And I took advantage of my focus in this area when I was on the freshman bus tour, because they had set up meetings with some private sector folks and with some people that have experience in the area of technology to see if I could immediately identify some key players. And it was great because in a couple cases it was people I had worked with before in Governor Ehrlich's administration. So I reconnected with them, and I've already invited them down to the shore, working with our local elected officials, our county officials. So when they come down, we can put together basically a presentation, go through and let them know the opportunities that would be available here on the shore.
Now, you have a very ambitious and exciting kind of agenda when you talk about that, but all that we're hearing right now is about budget cuts. The state being $1 billion in the hole, nearly $1 billion in the hole, 900 million. The comptroller had a report recently that the revenue, they're going to have to downtrend the revenue based on what they thought. Just lots of negative and hard talk about what's going to get cut. What kind of a role are you going to play in that? Is that going to be any fun at all?
Well, we have to hit this head on. As a matter of fact, Governor-elect Larry Hogan was in Ocean City last week attending the Maryland Farm Bureau Conference, and I had an opportunity to talk to him. And the first issue he brought up were the budget challenges we face. And he said point blank, this will take strong medicine and all of us working together. And unfortunately, the numbers are worse than what we thought. The latest update, as of, I believe, past couple of days, it's actually $1.2 billion. And of that, $420 million has to be addressed before June. So those are monumental budget challenges. I think, though, knowing that right now and making sure that all the folks that we're meeting with, whether they're our private sector partners or our public sector partners, that we're all dealing and facing with this situation. Budgets in the end come down to priorities. So during this key period, this key transition period between the election and when I'm sworn in on January 14th and when Larry Hogan is sworn in as governor on January 21st, there have been an awful lot of meetings with the various stakeholders. So, for example, I've sat down and all the Eastern Shore legislators have been invited to Warwick, have been invited to Salisbury University, have been invited to the Salisbury Chamber of Commerce. These meetings become crucial because we have to have honest conversations about our budget priorities. So you're absolutely correct, that will be front and center. Governor-elect Larry Hogan has made clear that before we can talk about rolling back certain taxes, that we have to get our fiscal house in order. I do believe he's going about it in such a thoughtful manner. He is going through department by department, agency by agency, looking at the audits that have been done in the past. And if there were audit recommendations where we could be more efficient, more cost effective, and they haven't been acted on, you better bet that this new governor-elect and his administration, the folks that he's bringing in, will act on those recommendations. Another example is, again, why this has to be a shared partnership. Just coming off of a meeting this morning at Salisbury University, and of course we talked about the budget. Well, I was encouraged to hear the president talk about the fact that she has some ideas with consolidation in the area of higher education that may be effective, that if you look at some of that consolidation, that may take off some of the brunt of some other budget cuts in other areas in higher education. Those are hard conversations that we have to have, but we are having them, and that's what encourages me about this transition period.
What do you think the politics is going to be like? I mean, will the Democratic leaders get the fact that the budget has to be cut, or will they fight to protect their little interest? Will it be a situation where the governor presents a budget and then he counts on you newly elected Republicans to back him in these votes? I mean, will it be a tense environment, or do you think there'll be more cooperation?
I was very encouraged in the orientation that Speaker Bush put together and President Miller put together for the new members, and these were new members in both the House and the Senate. One of the major pieces of the presentation on policy to us was on the budget. We actually went through it and we spent a lot of time. They wanted to make sure that the new members knew the budget challenges we were facing. So the fact that they made it such a focal point in our orientation tells me that there's a recognition across the board that this is our top priority. Also, I think what's different this time with a Republican governor, the benefits that Governor-elect Larry Hogan has as opposed to the ones that Governor Ehrlich did not have, is there are 50 House Republicans in the Maryland House of Delegates. So that's enough Republicans on the committees that certain issues and bills can't just be killed in committee, that we have enough to be effective. Also, the fact that we spent so much time together with our other colleagues in the freshman class across the aisle. So we were together for the orientation for 2 days. Then they pulled us up the next week and we were on a 3-day bus tour together. And this was, this is the bipartisan freshman class. We were able to, number one, it was an opportunity that we just get to know each other's people because we're going to be working together. And two, we could talk in an informal setting about what's going on in our own districts and share that. So we all were presented with the budget challenges and the more detailed presentation of those issues. But then we had that informal time where we could talk a little bit about the priorities for each district. And really that's what budgeting comes down to. It's prioritization.
I used to be an editor at the Annapolis Capital newspaper, and I would get called in at the end of the sessions to help cover things. And my favorite thing was that the last 2 nights in April when they were in session, and you'd start off in January with all these committee hearings and they would talk everything to death. But literally everything got done in that last 48 hours with things going back and forth between the Senate. Are you looking forward to that? I mean, how does all that go down?
I will be experiencing that in a different role. I did experience that when I worked for Governor Ehrlich, and really, as you just described, it comes down to just a whirlwind of activity. It's very intense, and it goes right up to midnight. So you're absolutely right. This time, I will be experiencing it as a new delegate, and I am looking forward to early on, and that's why I think this transition period is also important, early on making sure there's just, 2 or 3 priorities, stay focused on those. Everybody else will be working on their priorities, but I think staying focused, using the session, the entire 90-day session, to build support, to build coalitions for the initiatives or the policies that you're trying to move forward. Obviously, I see that I will be playing a key role in supporting and advocating for Governor-elect Hogan Rutherford administration's agenda. We know already that the immediate focus has to be on the budget. So knowing that the picture's been painted as far as our budget challenges, we also know here on the shore what we need to focus on. I've been very clear that I want to focus on economic development and looking for opportunities. And some of those opportunities aren't necessarily have anything to do with legislation, but the fact that I am an elected legislator will allow me, I believe, to strengthen some of the partnerships.
You can play coordinator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I already started doing this during this transition period. All of a sudden you find out this person over here has a great idea and may not be aware that an organization here is already working on that. How can we partner? How can we leverage the limited resources we have? That's something that I will continue to focus on, and that's in every area. That's with businesses, that's with our county elected officials and local elected officials, that's with our schools. That really excites me that we will have these opportunities to partner and to strengthen that partnership, and I'm committed to leveraging whatever assets we have and to develop future ones to see again if we can build more opportunities or expand more opportunities in the area of high tech and entrepreneurship. Whatever committee I'm assigned to, I will work on this regardless of where I'm assigned because it's so critical to the future of our young people on the shore.
You have an interesting angle in that Larry Hogan, and when I talk to people, I get the feeling that they don't know him because he was never really elected, so he doesn't have a long history of legislative accomplishment. He wasn't a county executive. He wasn't that kind of a thing. He's just sort of like a guy who people like. And I've been around him, but I don't feel like I have a beat on what kind of a guy he is. So as people read these headlines in the next 90 days about conflict or whatever's going on in the legislature, what kind of guy is Larry Hogan?
Well, it's a great question. And I was able during the campaign, when I was doing my door-to-door, I would talk about the governor's race as well as my own race because I thought it was important that folks who don't personally know Larry Hogan, and I do, for me to be able to share my impressions and his vision for the state, but also the fact that I know him personally. He is a friend. He is a former colleague. He is a straight shooter. He loves the shore. He has a place in Ocean City. He just likes to bring his family down here. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know that right after the election, he snuck into Ocean City, and without a lot of fanfare, he just wanted a little time with his family to take it all in, to celebrate with his own family.
People were calling me and telling me they saw him in Ocean City. I was like, yeah, after the election, he's going to go to Ocean City. But he was here.
He was here, and he loves the shore. He has spent some time. He's spent also a lot of time with the business people and the farmers down here as well. So number one, we have a governor-elect, our next governor, our new governor, who loves the shore. 2, he's an absolute straight shooter. So, when he's talking about these issues, he's already talked about there may be some strong medicine, but we're all going to have to work together. He's talking about he's reached out. He definitely works in a bipartisan fashion. If you look at who's on his transition team, he has Bob Neal, who has been a leader on budget issues for years and years and is a leading Democrat in the state. He has Jim Brady, who used to do transition issues for both Governor Glendening, Governor Ehrlich, and now Governor-elect Hogan. These are people that he's brought in from the very start, and he's made clear when he's talked to me this phosphorus management issue that we've been trying to make sure that we oppose the current regs and make sure that anything that comes down the pike that our farmers are at the table from the very start. Larry Governor-elect Larry Hogan pulled me aside and said, Mary Beth, make sure that you're working with the Democrats on this issue, that, this is something that he's made it a priority, but he wants to make sure we're working together on it. So he's really funny. And he has a way of, when we're talking about some really tough issues for the state, he brings some levity to it and will inject a little humor and can make his point, but when he does it with that softer approach with some humor, it's better received. Mm-hmm. And so I really believe that this is a historic moment, that we have a new governor who understands the challenges that Maryland faces today, that has already demonstrated that he can work, across the party aisle, who is run around this state for the past 3 years. Like, as I said, this didn't just occur in the last few months. Larry Hogan has been working around the state, has been in every county numerous times. So he has a sense of the whole state and not just the most populous areas of the state. So I'm excited. I have already talked to the governor-elect about what I can do to help him in my new role as a delegate. So I see this as a strong partnership, and I also see it as benefiting the shore.
Now we see delegates and senators, they flex their muscles via their committee assignments. Plus they learn a lot about specific issues via committees, but they can also expand from the committee. I mean, just because you have a topic in the committee doesn't mean you're limited to that. You can roam in other areas. What's your interest in terms of committees? What are you hoping to achieve through whatever committee you're on?
Well, wherever I'm assigned, I will be spending a lot of time with the Committee on Economic Matters. And because, as we just discussed, economic development in the area of high tech and entrepreneurship is a top priority for the shore. So I have already begun to, as a matter of fact, I already met with the chairman of the House Economic Matters Committee during my orientation. I made a point to let him know about the new district and that I was the first delegate, that I brought up both our tourism and our farming issues and the opportunities.
And you also got the highest vote percentage of anyone on the shore.
So I am very humbled by the close to 74% of the vote. And
74.8.
I'm hoping that number, that percentage, puts us all together in a stronger position. So, Economic Matters Committee, whether I'm on that committee or not, is somewhere where I will be spending a lot of time in making sure the chairman, the ranking Republican member, all the members know of the shore's priorities. I also, obviously, education will always be a priority. So I will make a point as the various school officials, parents, teachers talk to me about specific issues. And that's been in Worcester and Wicomico County. As a matter of fact, during this transition period, it's been great because I've been in both private and public schools. I've went to Seaside Christian Academy earlier this week. I've been invited to Stephen Decatur High School later this week. I have already met with the presidents and the board of trustees of Warwick Community College and Salisbury University, and I've had earlier meetings with UMES. So I want to make sure that the folks that I'm meeting with here at home know that I'm accessible to them, and that I will make sure that whatever, as we work on the priorities in their areas, that I will be taking them directly to the leadership, and leadership meaning both committee and also leadership meaning the Speaker and the President of the Senate.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I used to follow my grandfather around, and whenever he would run into a lawmaker, he had no hesitation to say, you need to get up there and do X, Y, Z. Tell them this, tell them that. So you're out and around. What are people telling you that you got to do first?
Well, they really want us to put our fiscal house in order. So, basically the example that so many constituents and voters have used with me is we sit around our kitchen table and we figure out how to balance our budget for our household. And you all need to do that in Annapolis. They're absolutely correct, and I'm hearing that is their top priority. They also are continuing to say, we need opportunities for our young people, because the voters and the families that I'm meeting with, they want the young people after they graduate, whether it's high school, college, they want them to stay in this area. And they know the only way that the young people will stay here is if we have enough opportunity. So I really am hearing what I'm hearing now is exactly what I heard on the trail, And it's exactly what Larry Hogan has focused his whole campaign and his whole administration will be focused on. So that's why I see this as all coming together, and we have a historic opportunity to move Maryland forward.
Good. Now, if I'm a constituent and I want to try to reach you, how do I get a hold of my delegate?
So we will post all that information. At this point, we're still waiting for office
I'm sure we'll
assignments.
put it on the screen here.
But
Yeah.
definitely would want to continue to be accessible to everybody. And so we'll have emails and phone numbers. And we also, what I plan to do is to continue to be out in the communities as much as possible. So obviously, when we're voting and we're in the session, I will be in Annapolis. But I will be, when I'm not, I am home. And I will continue to do what I did during the campaign, what I'm doing during this transition period. And once I'm sworn in, I will have a organization where different folks can approach me in different parts of the district. So whether it's holding a community meeting in Pittsville, or doing something in West Ocean City or in Ocean Pines, here in Salisbury, in downtown, to be accessible to the business leaders, I plan to, again, going back to the partnership that I talked about, is to have to make myself available in locations that are accessible to the voters. And the only way I know to do that is to continue to move around the district the way I did during the campaign and what I'm doing during the transition period. So we will make sure, whether it's through my Facebook, whether we put notices out through the local media and the newspapers, that
Newspapers.
my
Yeah.
accessibility to the constituents. So I'm looking forward to that, because I've had already some offers of, hey, would you hold a meeting here in this community or in this neighborhood? And what I'm planning to do is put that together and put together a series of meetings that would make sense, that if you couldn't make one in this community, that you could maybe make it in another. So that is the plan. And as soon as they give us our official email addresses and our offices, we'll be ready to go.
Well, Mary Beth Carozza, it's been a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to watching you, as everyone else will, in Annapolis. I know you're going to have a lot of fun. Don't have too much fun. I know those lobbyists get a lot of free food and stuff, right?
Well, I don't know about that, because we also went to our ethics briefing, but I just really I want the community to know that they're a part of this. They're part of history right now. So when I've gone around at these stops during this transition, it's really continuing to pull people in to let them know what's going on, because we have some heavy lifting to do, and we have to do it together, and the only way we're successful is if we do it together. So I'm humbled to have the opportunity, and I want the voters and the constituents and all the people from the shore to know that they are part of this historic opportunity.
Well, as Harry Kelly used to tell me whenever I left the shore, he'd say, make sure you tell them where you're from and make sure you make us all look proud.
That's right. We're from the shore.
So try to do that. Well, that's it. Mary Beth Carozza is here. She's headed off to Annapolis to try to represent us in the whole new world up there. That's pretty exciting. I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent, and you're watching PAC 14, and we miss Phil Tillman a lot. But keep watching us every week here on PAC 14.